How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Conti and Nich. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The first time they go offense, they take Jordan Love? They take Jordan Love!
Listen, Matisse Thybulle will lock up CP3.
Oh my god.
Chris Paul.
Oh my god.
Chris Paul, baby. Right, Will?
Nope, I totally disagree. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Conti and Nich. We're back with another episode number 64, and we got a guest back here today. I'm Will Nicholson alongside Gino Conti. We got the one and only Big Jake, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Fellas, thank you for joining me today on a beautiful Sunday.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And Jake, this is your 5th appearance on said show. And how does it feel to be such a repeat customer and visitor?
Well, it's been a while. Feels like we just began all over again.
It is, yeah, a new hope, and a new legend is born. And Jake is here to be with us at the beginning of it all. And I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy for any guests that we have in the future. And feel good?
I feel amazing. I'm ready to talk sports. It's been a minute.
I know.
Love that.
Jake's got that itch, man. He hasn't been able to scratch it for a while, and he's got it now.
I feel that, man. I was the same way, looking to, just burn off that that sports talk kind of energy that you got. I mean, we've been putting it in a group chat for about a year now, so it's good to talk it out. Also, for all the people out there, if you're wondering why I sound different, I was DJing till about 5 a.m. last night. So my voice and my throat, it's going a little bit. It's a little tough, but can never pass out on the opportunity to do a Conti and Nich. Actually, you know what? Hold on. For all of my
Alex in the same room.
For all of my audio listeners might be confused, but for everyone watching us live on YouTube, we got this from last night. This is my proof. This is my proof that it happened. No, I might not even sound different, but if I do, that is why. All right, we're gonna jump into the first topic we got right here. We got the NBA Finals. We're gonna talk a little bit of NBA Finals. I know Gino has done this a little bit on Ginormous. I'm pretty sure you've talked some NBA Finals on there. I've did it on In the Nick of Time, and then last time on Conti and Nick we also talked about it a little bit. So NBA Finals right now, the Pacers lead 1-0 on the OKC Thunder. Obviously, they had another massive comeback in the fourth quarter. Gina, my question for you: has Halliburton sold his soul, and that is why they're winning so many games?
Well, whether or not he sold his soul, I guess we'll find out when he's hosting the trophy. But you know what? Maybe he's just that good. Or maybe, they have the coaching edge. Maybe they have a little bit more playoff experience. Maybe they just have that little extra something for at least one game to propel them to that win, And again, the coaching difference for me, like even though I picked OKC to win this series, I believe that the coaching discrepancy is massive. One has a championship, and actually a championship that is considered the greatest upset or one of the greatest upsets of all time. So definitely there's that edge there, and Halliburton is once again continuing to show why he belongs in the top level of the NBA conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, saying for a while now. I've been a big Halliburton guy. I've been a big Pacers dude. And I love this Pacers team. I've said it a million times how much I want them to win. But there's always that part of me that thinks that OKC is gonna go because it just shows they got more talent. But I'm still rocking with Indiana, especially after game one. I think the Thunder do bounce back tonight and probably take game two. But it's been a great series. It's been fun to watch. Jake, how much have you been up to speed with the NBA Finals?
Not too much, to be honest with you. I got back. I was in Dallas all week, so
Ooh.
didn't have much time to watch that game. But I did see that clutch game-winning shot. The most overrated player in the league, this man's clutch. That's all I can say.
That's what I'm saying. One of the
I
things I
don't know
put in
what
the
the point is. I'm sorry, I will. I didn't mean
go
to say,
for it,
but
yeah.
I just want to know where this is just coming from. Like, what is it that makes people so inclined to just click, he's overrated? Like, why can't they just recognize that, the Pacers are going to be spearheaded by their best player, which is him. And obviously, their best player has led them to the point where even though they're not, blowing people out, they're winning these games in fashions where it's game winners. So they're always going to be close. They're always going to stick with you. Like, I don't understand what is kind of the inclination to just label Halliburton, just so overrated. Like, I don't get it. Like, what's the hate?
Well, that came off of an anonymous NBA
Yeah,
voting.
by the Athletic, they did that anonymous article, and they voted on a ton of things like who has the best stadium, who do you think has the best fans, and then one of them is who is the most overrated. And for some reason, a lot of people picked Tyrese Halliburton, and I've never understood it, right? Because I've never looked at Halliburton and been like, yeah, he gets rated too highly, or like he does a lot more. Uh, or he gets a lot more attention than what he's doing. That was a player poll. Yeah, it was. Um, but yeah, I've never understood it because he's always been like a head down kind of guy. He doesn't talk. He's not a trash talker. He just poops. He just goes out there and hoops, and he's been disrespected. I've never got it. Even in Sacramento, people were like he was drafted too high. He got drafted at like 12 or something. I don't know. It's never made sense to me.
I mean, yeah, and especially with how kind of the NBA is, like, yes, like lottery picks, you're kind of expecting that person to at least become like a valuable starter for your team. But if we're being real, I mean, depending on how deep the draft is, you're not like, necessarily expecting, I'd say, anyone past at most the top eight to potentially be like that franchise level guy. And most times it's top three, sometimes it's five. Like I said, it depends on the year. But, when you get into 10 past, very, very rarely, if ever, do guys who have that kind of top five talent ever slip to that level. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't understand. I think that I know it's like when we're just figuring out, I know it came from the athletic, but I don't understand it either. I don't know, to be honest with you. It makes me upset.
I think that was the best thing for him. Put
Could
an
have
extra
been.
chip on his shoulder.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. All these shots. Oh my god.
Yeah.
that
So
is
do
true.
you think that, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that is true. It could have put a chip on his shoulder that has taken him to a new level. Uh, Also, I was saying this about Jason Tatum a lot last year, and I feel like it applies to Halliburton now. Uh, Everyone on paper is better than Tyrese Halliburton until it's time to be better than Tyrese Halliburton, right? Like everyone is, oh, if he had this team, if blah 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 blah, he scores this many points, does this, like, okay. But when it's time to go and win a game, when you're an underrated team, when you're on the Pacers, I mean, how many people realistically could take a team like this Pacers team and command them to go as far as they're going right now? Very, very few. So yeah, I'm a big Halliburton guy. But yeah, I digress.
So I have two quick points. So I think certain trades that happen sometimes take a couple of years to marinate, to kind of like develop, and then we kind of see how it ends up. I think last year it was looking this way, but I think now we can officially say that the Pacers won that trade with the Kings when they traded Halliburton
I would say
for
so.
Sabonis. I I think because but for a while it looked really close. The
Yeah.
Kings were having the same amount of success that the Pacers were. So I think that we can kind of officially say now that the Pacers have won that trade all these years later.
I would say so. Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's about time to crown the Pacers as the winner of that trade. So Gina, are you sticking OKC? Because I know you're in a tough spot right now where I think that you want Indiana to win, but you think OKC is just the better team, and I agree with you. But I picked the Pacers anyway. How has your opinion changed at all from game one?
I'm not going to jump ship yet, but I still have OKC taking this. But I'm just going to say the lack of experience does worry me on OKC's side. Like you said, on paper, most teams will look better than Indiana, but Halliburton, even though he doesn't have finals experience, does seem to have just like that clutch gene, and that gene that makes you always in it, even if it doesn't look like you're in it. So again, I'm not going to change yet. I'm gonna heavily think about changing if they win again tonight. If they're able to take both the first two from OKC, then I'm really gonna be contemplating it. It will be a tough road to come back for the Thunder, but so that's how I feel. Like, how do you feel, or Jake? Sorry, like both of you. How do you guys feel if OKC ties it and if Indiana goes up 2-0?
See, I'm conflicted. All right,
Mm.
because I really want the Pacers to win because to see how they played us last year in the conference championship, I can really get behind this team. But part of my heart wants OKC to win for one sole reason. There's this guy that did a 5-team parlay, $13. If the Oilers and Thunder win now, this man can be winning 270 plus grand.
Ooh.
Really? So he bet what? Eagles, what?
Eagles, Dodgers, Liberty, Thunder, and Oilers.
Wow.
And 13 get you 270 grand.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's an
Cash
awesome
out.
bid.
It's
What's it like if you were to cash out right now? What would be the earnings?
I haven't even looked in a while.
Yeah.
After the Oilers win, it got up to 170. And then the Pacers won and dropping back down to 105. And then the Panthers won the other night. So I don't know how much further it dropped him. Maybe he's 80 something K.
I
This
hate
man
to I
wants
hate
to
to be
ride.
that guy. I hate to be that guy, but you gotta cash out at that point. When it's 80 grand, dude, when it's 80 grand, you gotta cash it out.
Yeah, look, I'm all for ambition. I'm all for wanting to, maximize your earnings. But when you have put $13 into something, and even it's dropped, say, like you said, it could have been like up to 150 grand.
Yeah.
If it's 80 grand now, I'm taking it. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
say no to
yeah,
80
yeah.
grand, especially when I've invested $13.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, look, it could happen. The man has a chance, but I don't know if I'd be able to resist that earning and that payout.
I would see how like
It's
tonight
tough.
looks, right? Like if the Thunder win tonight, be like, all right, maybe we let it ride a little bit. You know what I mean? But I think Edmonton takes it home. By the way, little hockey nugget in there. I think McDavid and the boys. Bring it home. Love that.
McDavid finally gets this time.
Mhm.
Now, just real quickly, just kind of to put a bow tie on this. If Indiana goes up 2-0, are any of you two willing to say that this is over?
No. No, no chance. Nah.
Yeah,
Dude,
no.
with a team like the
But
Thunder, they got too much talent to count them out. You know, like the odds look good, but there's just too much talent across that OKC team to be like, oh, they're down 2-0, like sweep. No, this series will not be a sweep. No chance.
listen, the NBA wants ratings, right? Pacers go up 2-0, then SGA is going to get fouled all the time.
Exactly.
I
He's
don't.
gonna get
I don't disagree with that.
you know,
Exactly. Yeah. All of a sudden, he shoots 20
uh,
free throws one game. They're right in it.
Oh man, you're down 2-0, and then the next game your free throw shot doubled. It was
Colin
10
Scott
last game, now it's
Foster, get him in. The great extender.
and, and to make fun of others, you have to make fun of yourselves. For the longest time, I thought that Tony brothers, there were legitimately two people. I thought that they were twin brothers as NBA officials. So during the Celtics finals loss against Golden State, I was like, man, where the hell is this other guy? I was like, where is the other brother? And like I didn't know his last name was Brothers.
That's
And
awesome. That's so good.
so
The Tony
I
brothers.
thought it was
Love that.
oh god.
Yeah, I think we wrapped up the NBA Finals. I'm a big let's go Pacers. I'll be cheering them on tonight. I think they play at like what 8 o'clock or something. Uh, so I'll be looking to
Sounds right.
that. So yeah, look out for more NBA Finals talk as we go through. We had some big NFL news drop just a couple of days ago. Aaron Rodgers, who recently has maybe floated the idea of retiring, has thought about, oh, maybe I'll go to Minnesota or all these different places, Pittsburgh. And he landed on the Steelers, and they officially announced he's signing there. He's going to be wearing number 8 there with DK Metcalf and, Tomlin, and Pickens is gone. So, I mean, who knows how that receiving core looks. Frymouth, yeah, it's a decent team. The Steelers are kind of on the cusp of like, we either need to win right now or we have to go into a rebuild year. I know they don't do rebuilding, but their talent's getting older. That defense is still insane. But Gino and Jake, what does Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers really do for him?
I'm gonna let Jake answer this first because he wanted to cover this topic badly. So I'm gonna get
All right.
Jake's thoughts on this.
I'm very interested with Rodgers to the Steelers. I think they just break 500 like usual, but I think this is going to be an even bigger year for DK.
Mm.
I think Rodgers is going to have 2 Hail Mary winning games.
Ooh.
2 DK. I think it comes back. He finally has that receiver to stretch the field again. Some guy that can go up, catch the ball. I could see DK having over 100 receptions this year. Could have almost like a Megatron style year.
I like that. I can see it.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm not even gonna say like the on the field stuff that you're saying. Like I can totally see it. I'm just so worried that even though it's Mike Tomlin and the ship that he has operated for over 15 years now, I'm worried that not everything may not fall apart. I think that Tomlin is very good at taking things that, happen behind the scenes and kind of being able to sweep it under the rug until after the season. I mean, look at the stuff that was with AB and a lot of other players. Like Mike Tomlin was very good at hiding that stuff. But I'm concerned that Aaron Rodgers is going somehow, some way to kind of get some cracks in the armor of like the Steelers' reputation just for this season. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about that. We saw how he performed in the final games and the final stretch of last season for the Jets, and he didn't look like the MVP Rodgers that we all know and love, but he looked like somebody who still had at least another year or so left in the tank. So I mean, we'll see if he'll be able to continue that performance, but after last year, kind of how he got that stranglehold on the Jets, I'm not convinced that he won't at least try and slightly succeed to do the same in Pittsburgh.
I mean, if any
I
player
disagree with
could take down the Steelers, right? If anyone could take down that culture, it would be Rodgers. It feels like with his kind of diva antics. I'm pretty much out on Rodgers at this point, which is unfortunate because I was a big defender of the 2020 and the 2021 years, where I thought, hey, the Packers could go out, win a Super Bowl, and then they choked it away in the oh my god, what can I think? The championship, the NFC championship versus the 49ers that one
Niners.
year.
Or
So
that low scoring game when Jimmy G won.
exactly, yeah. Those are all the games that Jimmy G won in San Francisco. No, but I am out on Rodgers. I think he's too much of a headache than what he's worth on the field. You can't deny the talent, but all the off-field stuff, I feel like at this point now in his career, kind of outweighs the production he puts out on the field. Because the guy, he can't, and I've never been a shut up and dribble person, right? I'm totally against that. I think that all these guys should be able to talk about what they feel like on his platform. But Rodgers takes it to a new level, right? Where he cannot stop himself to the point where he has to get banned off of McAfee. Like that is the craziest thing to me. When you can't go on a show like Pat McAfee anymore, which is like the epitome of like say whatever you want on sports. Like that it's the go-to. Athletes love going on McAfee, but I think he's too much of a headache for what he's worth now. Maybe he'll have a good year in Pittsburgh, but it's again, he's gonna have to buy into that culture, and I don't know if he's gonna do it.
See, Jake said he feels a little bit differently. So
I kind of disagree with that one.
Yeah.
Just because, Rodgers is going in on a 1-year deal. Cheap deal too for him, only $14 million.
Yeah.
But, that there's two ways it's gonna go. Is he the quarterback that pushes out Tomlin or not? I think that Rodgers' antics they'll be a little factor. I don't think it's going to be too big a factor in this team because, I mean, they've had a great culture for, almost 20 years?
Yeah.
I mean, they've been a great franchise since the 60s. So I don't think the Steeler nation itself will allow that to really happen. They're a little tougher down there than the Jets.
Just a little bit.
It's always in flux.
yeah, well, that is true. That is true. I will say, like, if there is one team, and like I totally see what you're saying. Like, if there is one team that will be able to maintain that,
Yeah.
then it will be Pittsburgh. Because I think everybody has their thoughts on Mike Tomlin and whether or not his time or his not that his time has come as if he can't coach anymore, but whether or not his voice has kind of grown stale in Pittsburgh. I happen to believe that with a roster like the Steelers have had, even though their defense has been good, their offense for I'd say about 5 years now, ever since Big Ben retired, has been questionable. And if you have a coach where in this day and age you have a questionable offense and you're still able to not even have a losing season and be at the very least 500, I still think that that's so invaluable because then what happens if you have a great season? You know what I'm saying? Like, if everything were to click, and I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but if everything were to click in Pittsburgh this year, if, like you were saying, Jake, DK gets 100 catches, he gets, like, those big plays like Hail Marys, and then Pittsburgh wins, and Aaron Rodgers kind of looks closer to, like, that above average quarterback than what we saw at the beginning of last year, things will work out for Pittsburgh because their defense is always consistently great. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I want to throw a little wrinkle in this whole thing with the Steelers. Now, if they start the year out kind of slow, or even they're not liking the Rodgers direction too much, I say they trade TJ Watt right away, bring in a first round pick. Let's say maybe TJ Watt to the Browns. Browns are trash. They're going to have a high pick. Now the Steelers can go get their quarterback. It's coming up this year. There's a lot of good quarterbacks coming up.
Yeah.
There are.
Arch Manning.
Yeah, there are
that
for
whole
sure.
crew. Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. I think it's gonna be a question because Arch
Only
is only
issue
a
I have with
junior.
that is
Yeah.
Yeah, get him out.
Get it out of there. No, I don't think they would ever trade TJ Watt, and to solve their quarterback issue, I actually like the guy they went and got in the 6th round this year. I really like Will Howard. I think that he is a he won a national championship in college. He's won wherever he's gone. Obviously there's a reason he went in the 6th round. He's not gonna blow you away with his talent, but I think if he learned behind Rodgers for a year, he has potential. I'm not saying that he's gonna be an MVP candidate and crazy, but I think he could, at the minimum, be a starting level quarterback if he gets a chance. Big Will Howard guy. I don't know.
So the next Sam Howell.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely the next Sam Howell. Less turnovers. Less turnovers.
He put up empty stats, and they were empty stats, but
Yeah,
those empty stats on paper could look good, So it was like, if he's Sam Howell, and you're able to harness that into winning plays and winning football, and you turn those empty stats into actually competitive football game stats, then hey, if that's how he turns out being, then I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider that a failure.
Swervy Kirby goes in chat. They sure could use Justin Fields. They could. They could. I like how the universe always corrects itself, right? Like, they should have taken Justin Fields 2nd overall in that draft way back in 2021. And here they are, and now the Jets have the starter in Justin Fields. But yeah, Pittsburgh, they're in a little bit of quarterback limbo right now, where your young guy, you don't really have him yet, and if you do, he's a 6th round pick who needs to learn. You got veterans kind of coming in and out since Big Ben has departed. It's awkward. It really is. You're in like a constant bridge quarterback for the last like 4 or 5 years, or however long it's been.
But let's be honest, it really came down to the whole Dwayne Haskins passing away. He was going to be their next guy.
Yeah,
and
it's unfortunate.
They threw them in the yeah.
And real quick before we move on, I just have one question, and it's about just the Steelers in general. I am of the opinion that the way the Steelers have handled their quarterback room ever since Big Ben retired, I'm not going to say should be viewed as the same, but I think it should be in the same discussion of how badly the Patriots have handled their QB situation since Tom Brady retired. Again, I think how the Patriots have done it is worse because obviously, they bottomed out. They were getting top 3 picks, top 4 picks past 2 years. But I do believe that if you were to do say a tier list of some sort of how badly teams have lost their way after losing legendary QBs, I think that even though the Patriots may be A or S tier, you put Pittsburgh at that B tier level. I think it's pretty close.
I just don't think kids are tough anymore. Those quarterbacks should have got mentally focused.
I think that throughout this show, I think that if Jake does not have the default Jake answer, these kids just ain't tough.
They don't want to play.
These kids
don't want to play.
They got no passion. They got no heart.
See Travis Hunter just doing his little dancey dances down in Jacksonville now. Just have to turn around and focus.
Yeah,
these kids aren't tough. They want to be TikTok dancers.
We'll get into someone who went to that same college who I also believe wants to be a TikTok dancer a little bit later on in the show.
Oh yeah,
but Travis Hunter.
Oh yeah,
but I believe we've all said our piece on the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. Are we ready to move on?
Yep.
Yeah, we got Swervy Kirby real quick, just 'cause I want to shout out the people in chat. They've done worse in post Big Ben era than the post Brady era, in my opinion. But nobody did worse than the Saints post Breeze, and that is the truth. Which actually is going to get us into something a little bit later when we talk a little shook.
My apologies. Who was it that commented that?
That was Swervy Kirby.
Yeah, well, Swervy Kirby, that is also a fantastic point, and that is something that is a great segue for something a little bit later in the show that we go over, because that is an outstanding point.
Yeah, 100%. Camp Tate as well, chiming in saying the Steelers surrounding cast with Ben retired was miles better than the Pats after Brady. 100%. The Steelers, they always have guys. They always got guys that are tough, hard-nosed guys, Tomlin guys, you could say. But I digress. All right. This was a big one for you, Gino, and I'm sure Jake too. So obviously in the past year, the college football playoffs, they've been shaken up a little bit It's gone from 4 teams all the way up to 12. And the new rule, I believe, is that the conference champions, so the 1 through 4 seeds, don't get a first round bye. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been super in the loop with the new rules. I've heard bits and pieces. So Gino, I'm gonna let you take this one away and give the rundown of the new college football format.
That's cool. So there have been a couple that have been going on, and just to be clear, that these aren't going to be put in effect until 2 seasons from now. So this upcoming college football season is going to remain the same as what we saw this past year. And if anything goes through, because obviously proposals are just proposals, so they may just say no, forget about it. But if the proposals go through, it will be 2 years from now. So two that I have seen, and to me that are the most notable, would be something called the 5+11 model, where they'll have 5 conference champions from SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, ACC, and then potentially I believe it is the Mountain West Conference. Those guys, or maybe Pac-12, because Pac-12 is coming back up as well. And then you'll have those 5 conference championships plus 11 of at-large teams, so whatever else is seeded, and then it is determined by the committee who is in and who is out. The top 4 seeds will receive a bye and automatically go into the second round. So there's also another one we'll get into after we kind of discuss this one. My first question, though, is do we even think that in the first place there needs to be another expansion after this one had just come into place where they go from 4 to 12?
100%. I'm on the big aspect of I this is going back to the NFL a little bit. I'd rather the NFL not expand to 18 games a season. I'd rather have college expand their playoffs. So now we have that game right before the Super Bowl. So we have football going all the way up again.
Well, think about the model too, where one of the biggest like discrepancies of people coming into the league is that we only play like 8-9 games in college, right? Like you only play a certain amount of games in college. Go to the NFL, you double that, and you have playoffs. So maybe having the extra teams playing more games, it prepares you a little bit more potentially for those guys who are going to the league. I think an expansion 100% to answer Gino's question. Is needed. I mean, for so long, we've been saying that the 14 playoff format is terrible. No one likes it. There's always a team who should be in. And you have something like this past year where, the conference champions kind of determined who made the playoffs in what conference, right? Because it was it Georgia Bama? Or no, it might not have been for the championship. I know that people thought that Bama should have probably gotten in, and they didn't, and it ended up being these other
SMU.
these SMU and these other schools, which by the way I think is deserved. But I think this is a great format to get rid of the debate for who gets in and who doesn't, right? 'Cause it's like, okay, you win the conference championship in those 5 big conferences, you get in. Everyone else, you're it's like the same way. Like you have to fight to get in, and you have to have the good record and the strength of schedule, and all that. So I actually like that format, the 5+11 up it to 16 teams from 12, and I think it gets rid of the debate. Like if you're not a top 16 team in the country, which I think that it becomes not arguable at that point. Like I think a clear cut 16, you can kind of like draw the line of these are the best 16 teams. I think it gets rid of the debate of who should be in and who should be out, which I think is the biggest problem right now in college football.
Yeah. And you got to remember with this, right? Notre Dame is an independent, so they're not in any specific conference. So, assuming, because Notre Dame is always a powerhouse, they're always going to get great recruits and players. So, automatically, I mean, from each conference, you would get 5. They would be the champions. And then you kind of essentially every year would also add Notre Dame to that list. So, and realistically, it's like you get the 6 guaranteed because, you have the 5 Notre Dame, and it's essentially 6+10. It's called like the 5+11, but everyone knows in conventional wisdom that Notre Dame will always be hovering around at least that top 16,
100%.
unless they have a really down year. So I understand where this is coming from. I do, with this model, I do like how the conference become a lot more competitive. It really means something, and the ultimate goal is obviously to win the national championship, but you can't do that without first then getting your conference championship. So I like how it puts a lot of emphasis on that. My only worry is kind of, once again, you're putting a lot into the hands of the committee. And even though the committee has made some good decisions, I think they did a good job last year of taking some teams that didn't necessarily ever have a chance, like kind of a Boise State, like an Indiana, like an SMU. You know, they put a lot of those teams who may not have had a chance in the spotlight with the the 4 team format of old. But I do think, again, you put so much into the hands of the committee, eventually it will turn into, okay, well, let's just get more teams from the SEC. Let's just get more teams from the Big Ten. And I think eventually, as time goes on, it's going to be a lot less of those teams that you don't really expect to be in kind of getting shoved to the side in favor of those power conferences. And that's the only thing that I'm worried about here.
For sure. And I'm all for and this is kind of my defense to the committee, because I think they haven't been perfect in the couple of years. I think the Florida State should have got in when that was a big debate. But
that one's tough for them.
It's tough, and I get it, because quarterback was hurt, and everything like that. But I will say, this is why I like the idea of leaving it up to the committee, potentially, if they get it right. Because, like, let's say the SEC has a phenomenal year and, like, the Big Ten isn't as good. Then I'm all for, like, okay, put 3 SEC schools in. You know what I mean? Like, let's say Bama, Georgia, and, like, A&M or something. LSU, well, that's more likely. Like, Bama, Georgia, LSU all have a crazy year. And, you know, what are you only going to take, like, 1 or 2 of those teams because you have this format, and then, like, 2 Big Ten teams get in? I'm all for it. If the Big Ten has a down season, bring on in and bring on those 3 SEC teams. If the SEC is crazy and, like, all those teams only lose, like, 1 or 2 games, and it's to, you know, themselves or each other rather, I'm all for it. And that's where I think the committee could do good, but also it's a scary and daunting idea to leave it up to the committee, because we've been cursed for the past couple of years of having them pick, like, 3 SEC schools in the top 4 for the playoffs. So I don't know. I get where you're coming from, though. You don't want to leave it to the committee.
The one thing that we're not talking about here is most of the conferences are in flux right now. So many teams are switching conferences that in the next, like, say 2-3 years, the whole college football conference layout is going to look completely different.
True. Yeah.
So if we have like 12 different teams in SEC, well, yeah, we got to put more SEC teams in the playoffs than a Pac-12. That might become a Pac-8 in reality if teams leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's once again like what I think is scary, because like Jake said, which is absolutely correct. You saw the Pac-12, which used to have teams like USC, who's always going to be in that discussion. Oregon, who's one of the best teams in the country. Washington, who just a few years ago was making some noise in the top 4 format. You know what I'm saying? So like there were so many teams who left that Pac-12 who went into these big power conferences like the SEC and like the Big Ten. And that's what I'm kind of worried about here, where eventually it's going to be, hey, well, all of these teams can't be left out. And we kind of have this preconceived notion that SEC, Big Ten, and these power conferences are the best ones. So we got to find a way to shoehorn them in. And then eventually, like I said, it won't be like this past season where you get the Boise States. And I know you'll have the 5 conference champions in, and that will automatically get at least one of those kind of teams in. But there are also other teams that are deserving of it, because last year you had Clemson in, and then you had SMU, 2 ACC teams. I'm worried that, again, that won't be the case. You know, that's what I'm worried about.
No, 100%. And I think you want a diverse college football playoffs, which I'm sure the committee wants to. I mean, that's why you up it to 12, right? You want a diverse playoff schedule where you have different teams from different locations and different conferences. but you know, again, I get the conference switching part, and I think that is a huge thing to consider. You know, if the Pac-12 becomes like the Pac-8 and all these teams move into the SEC, I think it's got to be considered. But I think if you get those super house, like those true super house conferences, you got to run the risk of like, hey, three of you aren't going to get in every year. That's if you want to switch to the SEC, for football, which a lot of teams have gone and done that. Like that's the risk you run, right? You got to be top 2 in the conference to get in, because if you don't have like a historically good team and you're sitting at like the 3 spot and the SEC is just different this year, you're not going to get in. But yeah, I love the ACC teams getting in as well. And I think that's what I want it to be. Even like the lower SEC teams, like Ole Miss was good last year, but in the past couple of years, there was no shot they would have ever made it into the college football playoffs.
We have to take it easy for our viewers here, because one of our friends, and you know him well, his name is Dom,
Yeah.
is a big Ole Miss fan. That is his team. So all I'm going to say is, if we speak, just for the audience sake, I think if we're going to speak harshly, I'm just kidding, about Ole Miss, then I think that we should just, use our words a little soft. I just don't want anyone in our audience's feelings
True.
getting
There
hurt.
we go. Cam Tate is in the chat. I'm not saying anything about Michigan. It won't happen. But Kim actually brings up a good point. He said Ohio State.
Screw it.
Get him out.
Come on. Hey,
Yeah.
we got viewers to please here, man. We got viewers to please.
No. Eli's a Pats killer. Screw Ole Miss.
Cam brought up a good point, by the way, saying Ohio State versus Michigan being the last game of the year for the Big Ten championship for the bid to get into the playoffs. That would be cool. And that's what I'm looking for. Give me like Georgia, Bama, SEC championship. Winner gets into the playoffs. The loser, too bad. The ACC was good this year. They get 2 teams like that. That's the kind of stuff that I love. Yeah, Dom is already up in arms about Ole Miss. No, but like a team like Ole Miss, they weren't good. Excuse me, please pardon me. They weren't good for a couple of years now. They had some decent players, some good teams, but they would have never gotten in until a year like this. And you got to see Jackson Darts, sling it a little bit against these top tier teams. And I think that's the reason why he went in the first round, is because he got to get the look in the college football playoffs. So I'm a big fan of the expansion. But I get your guys' concerns 100%, and it's actually made me think a little bit more with all the conference switching. Like, oh, that could get awkward.
Yeah, and real quick, just to kind of bring up that second proposal that I saw, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think it's ridiculous, and if it happens, I think we're going to have a whole nother discussion as to college football going in the wrong direction. I heard this on the Joel Klatt show, for what it's worth. No offense, but but it's 4 automatic qualifiers in the playoffs for the SEC and Big Ten. So no matter what, the top 4 teams from that conference are going to make the playoffs. Then for the ACC and the Big 12, you get 2 automatic qualifiers, and then you have 4 at large. I think that's ridiculous, because essentially, once again, you have 3 at large, because Notre Dame is always going to have to make it in.
Yeah.
So essentially, you would get automatically 4 SEC teams, 4 Big Ten teams. So 8 right off the bat are going to be from those 2 conferences, and then 4 combined from the ACC and the Big 12, and then plus Notre Dame. I think that's ridiculous. I think that eliminates the purpose of any conference championships, because why would you try as hard to win that? We're going to make the playoffs anyways. We're in the top 4.
Exactly.
And I think that if that ever goes through, I think, once again, there's going to be a nosedive in quality from college football.
Well, yeah, you say again, like you talk about the conference switching stuff, then all those teams are just going to switch on into the conferences that get a 2-team bid. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, it's not going to be every team, but it kind of takes the whole aspect of, get to the conference championship, win it, and get into the playoffs. It takes that aspect out. I will say that is easily the worst proposal I've heard for college. That ruins it for everyone. Like, no one has fun with that proposal.
I agree. I 1000% agree. And I would just like to say, my sister Gianna right now is in the background, and she would just like to say hello to the Conti and Nich audience and viewership.
Hi, Gianna.
Well,
Long time no see. I didn't even, what'd she say? I didn't even hear her.
she just said hi. What's up?
Oh, what's
Should
up?
feature me.
Oh, feature you.
Also engage with the live chat.
That was on me. But yeah, we just wanted to have a quick little Gianna cameo just to
Yeah.
say hello.
The
and
first
finally
ever
get some,
T-shirt
acknowledgement.
winner from way back in the
This
day.
is cool.
Totally unbiased.
Not
It was not rigged.
not rigged.
Not cricket.
Completely not rigged.
It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh boy.
I think college football's in a great place right now. I think it's super competitive. I'm a big fan of what they're doing. As someone who hasn't been super into college football, like ever, I never really had a team that I rep or anything like that. But it's gotten bigger and it's gotten more entertaining. Also, I'm a little biased as Aiden is starting to look for, and colleges are like looking for him as well. My youngest brother Aiden, it's it's getting me a little more into college football where I'm like, ooh, like what are the fun schools? Like where are the ones that are good for football? So I don't know.
There's a team that wears red and white up in Madison, Wisconsin, which I'm sure will gladly take his services.
Oh yeah, you think?
Absolutely.
we still need to have a one-on-one fight with Aiden and my brother Walter.
It'll
Both
hey,
Giants.
one day
One day.
it'll happen.
So speaking of one-on-one duels,
Oh yeah,
on a V. So I mean, real quickly, I mean, we don't need to spend too much time on this, but Tyler Shuck and Sitter Sanders. That is kind of something that Will and I have wanted to discuss. Jake is here, so it'd be interesting to get his perspective. We all know what happened with Sitter Sanders in the draft. That by now is ancient history. But Tyler Shuck always obviously was one of the more controversial picks in the draft. A lot of people did not think he deserved to be drafted as high as he did. But there's a debate to be had for a reason, right? And Tyler Shuck, Shador Sanders, at least right now, right off the bat, who are we thinking, who are we leaning towards in terms of career success, in terms of talent? What are we thinking?
Talent-wise, Sanders. Career success, Sanders. First year success, Chuck. But here's the thing. Tyler Shuck is 26 years old. I'm pretty sure he was the oldest quarterback drafted.
damn.
And this is giving me reminiscence of Brandon Whedon when he was drafted by the Browns.
Yeah, and again, I'm with you. All right, talent, all that stuff. Give me Shador Sanders. But again, the quarterback room in Cleveland, like we don't even know if Shador is gonna play. Right, like it's still not confirmed. I mean, you still got what Kenny Pickett. They just they gave Dylan Gabriel like a 4-year contract or something, their 3rd-round pick. So there's no like surefire Shador is even gonna play. So yeah, Shook obviously. I there's not a competition in that Saints QB room, right? He should win. He should probably be the starter day one. I mean, you got to beat out Derek Carr, but I don't think that should be too much of a problem.
Carr retired.
Okay, never mind then.
And then if he can't beat Spencer Rattler, then that's a whole nother discussion.
Exactly.
You know,
No,
but-
100%. Who was it? We had a conversation like this a while ago. I think it was someone who couldn't beat out Sam Darnold or something, and we're like, can you? Or it was Trey Lance and Sam Darnold that one year in the 49ers. Like, if you can't beat out Sam Darnold, you should not be a starter in the league.
This is true. I mean, that honestly aged like milk just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like on one hand we were right because I don't
At the
think
time, it
Trey
was
Lance
true.
on
At the time, it 100% was true.
Yeah. And then the other just is getting paid $33 million a year by Seattle after a breakout season.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
so we were right,
Yes,
but we
sir.
were also, but it also kind of aged like
Yeah.
milk.
Yeah. I mean, Sam
How old
grew.
is Shuck right now? I think he's 26.
Yeah, 26, 27.
Put that in perspective right now with Shuck. Shuck's 26 and Sam Darnold's 26, who's been in the league for 6 years.
That is insane.
Insane.
When you put it this way, because Tyler Shuck backed up in Oregon. He backed up Justin Herbert. So
It's
that just goes to show you.
crazy. That's
Now
insane.
I just want to say this because he was in college football for 7 years, and a lot of people are gonna be like, "Well, he must have a lot of experience." Shador Sanders actually played more games in college football than Tyler Shuck. Chuck
That is
has only
insane.
played 42 games.
Yeah, and you would think for 7 years it'd be a lot more than that.
Yeah. Between injuries, 3 different teams,
Yeah.
and he for a career he only has 59 touchdowns to 23 interceptions. Compared to Sanders, who has 134 touchdowns, 27 interceptions.
Yep. Well, it's like
I think
first of all, it's insane that we've reached an age now where it's like it's kind of cool that we're older than like most of the rookies coming in to the class. Uh we're, Shook is not just older than us; he's like 2 years older than us, and he's gonna be a rookie in the NFL. That's a little bit crazy. But
he's
you
the
know
first ever unk to ever be in college.
yeah, no, he's gonna be an unk as a rookie. Like that's crazy. That's some wild stuff. No, but I have been a very strong Shador Sanders defender. I think the talent is there. I don't know necessarily if I believe all the stuff that he bombed the pre-draft interviews that bad. I'm sure he's got a little bit of an edge to him, and it's not everyone's cup of tea for sure. But him falling to the 5th round, I still think is ridiculous. And not to sound like Mel Kiper, because I actually did think he was gonna fall. Right, I didn't think he was gonna go in the top 20 picks in the 1st round, and then I thought a team would trade up. I get him not going in the 1st round, the 2nd round, the 3rd round. I think he should have gone. I think the Dylan Gabriel pick is mind numbing to me still. Dylan Gabriel over Shador, because you see the talent. Obviously he played for his dad, and I get all that stuff. But I want to see the same energy when or if Arch Manning comes out this year, and I think it's different. I think Arch is a little more talented, but this whole he's only played for his dad, and he's got Travis Hunter there, and he's there with his brother, and blah blah blah. Can he handle it? He's even looked good in OTAs. Like he's looked like a decent quarterback. I just want him to succeed at this point because so many people have put this kid down, and kind of made him seem like a bad guy. When in reality, all the kid does really is ball, and then he's got a bit of a social media presence. So, Shador.
I'm gonna say this like in favor, and I'm gonna say this. I'm not if Shador Sanders ends up being better than Tyler Shuck, I'm not gonna sit here and scream from the rooftops that this is ridiculous, because anybody who was warranting consideration at one point of being the #1 quarterback in their draft class obviously has some sort of talent, has some sort of redeeming qualities. Obviously, it came to be Cam Ward, but there was a debate there for a minute as to whether or not Shador Sanders was the best quarterback. So I'm going to give him, obviously, the credit there. But I will say 32 teams saw something wrong that they wanted to ultimately pass up on up until the 5th round. And you saw a clip recently of Shador Sanders trying to be fun and like just, shoot the what with Joe Flacco. And Joe Flacco was in the middle of practice, and, he answered him, but he didn't exactly give him the type of a time of day. It's kind of like you're on the job site and you're trying to work, and like there's that one guy who just won't stop talking. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what to me like it looked like. And obviously something had to have happened at that level with the coaches, with the GMs to make him slip that bad. And I'll say this in terms of that was my off the field, but on the field, Colorado, even though they didn't have an O line, and he deserves credit for getting the stats that he did in Colorado without that good O line, they didn't really run the football. And all they did was pass and run a very specific non pro style scheme, which would be like pure spread with the 4 receivers, and you didn't exactly see things that would translate to the NFL that would go into Shador Sanders' game other than strictly the arm talent and the talent that he possesses to kind of scramble in that pocket, because he's not exactly too much of a mobile guy. Like, he's mobile in the pocket, but Tyler Shuck, being older, being somebody who, yes, is injury prone, but being on several teams, saying he's scheme versatile, that appeals more, in my opinion, to NFL coaches and NFL general managers. Somebody who's been around and can do a lot of things, and also has good arm talent. And that's where I think the Tyler Shuck like favoring went into play.
Now,
Yeah.
let me go off the point you just said there.
Yeah.
Now, he's been in different schemes. Well, there's a quarterback on the Browns that's in a similar boat. That's Dylan Gabriel. He's been in multiple different schemes, and he's had success in multiple different schemes, right? So, have the same conversation there.
That is true.
I
Yeah,
just
that is
want to
true.
point out, because we could have that same conversation with him, who Shador is actively
Competing.
fighting with.
Yeah,
I
and look,
I think so. Real
you can-
quick though, I think that Dylan Gabriel, you talk about a guy who had a system that was built for him. I mean, that Oregon system was like to a T built for Dylan Gabriel. It was the same thing, this long, deep pass kind of game where he threw for a lot of yards, and he threw a couple of touchdowns. And it was like, oh, look at this. But Oregon didn't do much, right? Like they didn't show you a whole much past Gabriel playing good and winning a lot of games. So I think that argument for Shador, where he has like the specific scheme made for him, I think it's a little different for Gabriel, but I think the system that he played in, you got to kind of look at that too and be like, oh, that's not repeatable in the NFL.
I think Sanders is going to need time to mature in a system in general, and you guys are going to love this. I think he needs the Jordan Love type of experience.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
I think he needs to sit behind, kind of just keep going with the scheme, grow with it. Because, I mean, Sanders did take 42 sacks last year.
It's a lot.
In college.
Yeah.
And as much you want to say is he didn't have a great old line. You got to know when to throw the ball away or when to, quick audible instead of taking that sack,
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with Jake with what he's saying. Like, and there have been a lot of people who have given the Saints legitimate like flack for not taking Shador and going with Tyler Shuck. But only time will tell whether or not that those predictions and takes are right. But at the end of the day, the Saints' preference was somebody who was able to learn a little bit quicker. The Saints, just kind of like the Steelers, aren't really a team that want to take that nosedive. They want to be a team that, no matter what, is always competing for that division title and competing for the playoffs. So if that's their style, then they went for a quarterback who is able to kind of go into a role, fill that role quickly, and somebody who is NFL pro ready. You know what I mean? And that, in my opinion, isn't Shador Sanders. Because you look at it, the Browns, they've drafted a tight end, and they have Njoku. So clearly they're going to be like they have in the past, running a lot of 2 tight end sets. They drafted 2 running backs as well. So, they're going to be running a lot of 21 personnel with 2 tight ends, and it's just not going to be something that Shador Sanders is really experienced with. And I think that if he is going to succeed, then like Jake said, he's going to need to take that time and he's going to need to develop in order to let that talent showcase into the system that Cleveland wants.
Talk about a humbling experience, right, for Shador. And maybe he needed it, maybe he didn't, but now he's got that chip on his shoulder. It doesn't matter where you get drafted, you just got to play ball. And I'm hopeful for the kid. I want him to succeed just because so many people, I feel like, whether they think it's been deserved or it just hasn't been, have kind of just put him down, because his last name is Sanders, and obviously I think that's done probably more good for him than it's done bad. But I'm a fan of the person who is written off. You know what I mean? Who everyone says like, oh, yep, that he got what he deserved. He went in the 5th round, and now he stands no chance in Cleveland. And I can obviously there's multiple worlds where he doesn't succeed, right? There's they're out there. But I'm hopeful that Shador can make some magic happen. Maybe win the starting job in Cleveland. If not, I think there's a couple of more franchises out there that could probably use him, whether or not he's a starter coming off the the bench for a year. One of my favorite teams I thought he was going to go to was the Rams. I thought that the Rams would be a huge fit out in LA, and he could learn behind Stafford for a little bit. Still, I think it's crazy how we're talking about Shador. He could be anywhere from a starter to like being cut, right? Like that is the threshold. Like there is a huge possibility that he gets cut in training camp because there's 5 quarterbacks in that room and they're paying a lot of them more than Shador already.
Yep, absolutely.
Kenny Pickett's still on the bottom of that chart, though.
Yeah.
Mr. Small Hands.
Mr. Gloves, another guy that the Steelers whiffed on. Fellas, I think it's gonna do it. We're about an hour in at this point. Yeah.
So,
Any closing
to kind of
thoughts?
make a closing remark, there is one human being on this earth who, if I had them on my quarterback depth chart, I would never in a million years consider cutting. This is somebody who has all the intangibles in the world, and just words cannot describe. Jake, you thinking what I'm thinking?
Ooh, I don't know. You gotta say it.
1, 2, 3.
John Bro! Peace out, everyone. We'll see you next time. Jake,
Man.
thank you for joining us. Peace out.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Jake.
All right, we're through. Johnny boy, bro. Oh, my mic still isn't muted.